Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Hi, welcome back to Downsizing Roadmap. I'm Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And today we are going to talk about a 12-month downsizing journey. So a season-by-season guide. And it's the downsizing season, not necessarily the season of the year.
Yeah, I think there's some comparisons to actual seasons and how we all typically feel throughout different parts of the year, and especially in areas of the country that have seasons. Yeah, we get the winter blues and the, more energy and doing more in the summer and things like that. So we can compare that, but this journey that we'll talk about today definitely does not need to match the calendar year. It's designed for people who might, not be in that quick time frame. We've already, they've called, our new place is ready, we're, already under contract to buy something, that is a different time frame. This is for somebody who has a little time on their side, but they know they want to downsize at home, maybe thinking of a move in a year or two, and just that path to take it through a full year and accomplish a lot of great things.
Yeah, when you're thinking, okay, I know the time is coming, that's when you should start.
Yes.
Not just putting it off and going, but that's for another day, right? If you start feeling like, okay, this house is too big or this is too much stuff or whatever that feels like, that's when you start.
Yes. Honestly, I'm getting ready to move myself in a couple months. We're building, so we've had that longer time frame. And, it's great advice because I've done some stuff, but I'm also like, timeline is creeping up, time to, accelerate all of that. So definitely don't kick that can down the road. Time is on your side.
Yeah, and even if you're thinking you're going to make a move, honestly, we moved into a bigger house this last time. But I ran out of time and ended up packing things that I didn't need to bring. And there are probably still, some of them in the house I need to be letting them go now. Or when you move into a new place, honestly, you want different things sometimes. You don't, your identity is changing a little bit and you want that to be a little bit different. So that took more time than I expected it to. So if you have a year, take the year and do it and really spend that time and be thoughtful and purposeful about what you're doing to let go of things. And we'll talk about what that looks like.
I think those words are so important, that thoughtful and purposeful. That will bring so much joy to your new space when you have, put that intention into what you're bringing, what you're honoring, what you're decorating with, what you're using. Versus, oh gosh, I'm facing unpacking and there's not enough room.
And then when you unpack it, you're like, why'd I even bring this? Like, I don't want this anymore.
Yes.
Believe me, that has happened.
And you're exhausted because you had to do it all quickly. So
Yeah. So this isn't a 3-day purge. This is just a gentle, thoughtful way to kind of, move through the process and get where you want to go. And even if you aren't moving, you can do this process and your house will feel
lighter,
totally different.
Yeah. Love it.
So don't need to start in January. You don't even have to have a plan to move. You can just start working on less clutter, a more peaceful place, more clarity. So the seasons that we're talking about are based on energy and emotion and not really the calendar, but we can relate them to the calendar to kind of, give you that idea. So just phases. So think of them like an emotional climate, right?
Yeah.
So spring would be the beginning, the start, that's when you have your energy around it. And honestly, sometimes, I don't know about you, but I let things go for a little bit sometimes, and then I get in this kind of frenzy of like, I got to get that area cleaned up or that part, that I walk by every day and it's irritating me. And that's that energy, and start with that energy and build on it, right? So
yeah, it's like that spring cleaning mentality, and the flowers are starting to bloom. All of that is that new energy, and everything, even if it's not a huge downsizing project like this, just that, okay, we hibernated a little too much through the winter,
Right.
and we, let things go because for me, I feel like I go to bed earlier.
Dark outside and you don't feel like it.
Don't want to do anything. And so I do get that energy to just tackle something in the spring and get excited. So, yeah.
So spring is starting. I'm going to read them real fast and then we'll go through them again. So spring would be starting. Summer would be getting your momentum going because once you've gotten that energy, you're going to get that momentum. Yep. Fall would be more sentimental and kind of reflection on maybe some of the harder things. And then winter is reset, reassess. Once you've kind of gone through everything, decide, do we need to do that process again? Because these processes are honestly never ending.
Yeah.
Kind of like eating right and exercising. Sorry, folks. It's one
delivering
of those
all the bad news today, Jody. You're never done.
But I think it's just like, I think we've talked about this before. We both, when we were little, would let our room get to like a huge mess, and then it would take hours and hours and hours for us to clean it. But we'd get all into it, right? Like you'd get so much into it, you'd rearrange the furniture and do all the things. And so I think if you haven't done this for your house for a really long time, it might be like that. It might feel very overwhelming and so much. But then maintenance on that, would not be that hard if we would have done it when we were we didn't. But honestly, if then you just get in that habit after you've spent a year doing it and you have your 10-minute a day habit or whatever, it won't ever get as bad as it was this first time.
Yes. And that's definitely that one in, one out rule. Like this is a commitment. It's if you're really truly going through downsizing and any of the processes that we suggest, once you've done it, don't maintain it. Don't let it get back to a point where it's an overwhelming and daunting task again.
Right. And it'll feel good. It'll feel so good that you'll want to maintain it when you do it. So spring starting, summer momentum, fall reflection, and winter reset and reassess. So if you're ready to start, that's spring. It doesn't have to be in the spring, but like emotionally, that's what it is. It's your spring start. And so focus on things that either don't have a lot of pressure, but that give you some energy. Whatever it is that you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tackle that junk drawer's been making me crazy. Or if there's a pile of things in the corner of your house that you've been walking by forever, do that one. Like whatever that feels like it's simple, it's not super emotional stuff, but it's also a quick project to kind of get that ball rolling.
Yes. I was just thinking about this weekend. I have like a drawer in the kitchen that has the, it's one of the big wide drawers at the bottom, and it's got the plastic grocery bags and the reusable grocery bags that I take to the store and, other
paper ones.
Yeah, it's got a couple platters at the bottom of that don't fit anywhere else. And it's got that, but the only thing I use is like 3 of the reusable every week. And,
it all could go.
Yes, the rest of it could go. I think, why do I keep battling? They float over the back of the drawer
shoving
into
them back in
cabinet and stuff. And I thought, why do I have so many reusable bags and all of that? I never need them. So good advice.
Yes. So do something that's simple and that maybe just bugs you a little bit, to be honest with you, because it'll be actually annoying, because it'll be like, that took me a whole 15 minutes and I've walked by it for so long thinking it's it's a project.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
And it really won't usually take you that long. Maybe even if it takes you an hour, it's something that's really, makes a difference in your daily stress. Because remember, stuff can really give you stress just having it be around you, and it's like a visual kind of stressful thing that if you clean it up, you just feel more calm, and you don't even know that's happening. The more you surround yourself with the stuff, you don't really realize how much that's happening to you, how much stress that's causing you just to have it around you.
Yeah.
Even if you're not doing anything with it.
The stress and the extra thoughts and decisions that it causes for no reason all the time.
Right.
So, absolutely. I think that anytime you're going to get started, that you definitely want to, start with those things that will give you quick wins.
Right.
Never start with the hardest things.
Right, for sure. Yeah, yes, because you will get mired down if you start with photos or something that's hard. You will get mired down, and you will not get that momentum. That is the next phase. Summer is the momentum. Like you will not be getting that momentum from picking the hardest thing to.
Because you won't going to go back and do it the next day.
Yeah, because you'll just feel like, oh, this is exhausting, and I don't feel like doing it anymore. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we have a quote down here that I love. It just says, progress counts even when it's small.
Yep.
So back to that, do some easy things and collect wins. All small things are wins too. It does not have to be that big win at the end of the house, like I'm done.
Well, and it doesn't have to be the kitchen. It can just be a drawer in the kitchen.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. So don't think, if you're feeling overwhelmed, that means you haven't gone small enough.
Right.
Right? It could just be the bottom of your coat closet, like that, the shoes and like whatever, and it doesn't even have to be the whole thing. You can do a little bit every day to get yourself to feeling good about that and motivated, and just pick something small. Or just tell yourself 10 minutes. And if I've done the 10 minutes, I've won today. And whatever that took, like whatever you got accomplished in the 10 minutes, might not seem like much, but that's okay, because you're going to do it every day and it'll get done.
Absolutely. Define what your win is for that day.
Yes,
and just
before you start.
Yes.
Before you start, define what your win is. If your win is I did it for 10 minutes, great. If your win is I'm going to clean out this one little corner of something, great.
Yeah.
But then know that you have, if you want to keep going, great. But if not, you've won for that day. Yeah. And it's really more about creating a habit of doing this, because as we said, it's kind of lifelong. And so it's really more about creating a habit of cleaning out things as you go along.
Absolutely. And that's easy to mimic rather than the big projects.
Yeah. And a mindset of when you look at things, I think we live in our house and we just stop looking. We just stop looking at everything. Yeah. When I was at a house with a guy, he was a bachelor, and he was showing me around his house to sell it. And it had been his aunt's house, and it was all full of like frilly like wallpaper and like frilly curtains. And he had just moved in and then not really done anything with it. And so when I came to show, look at it to get it sold, he was looking at it through my eyes instead of through his own, which he had not looked at it in a long time. And he walked in and he's like, oh my gosh, like that wallpaper's so bad. And, he's this like kind of, younger single guy. It's clearly not his style. And he just had stopped looking at it until I looked at it. And then he was looking at it through my eyes. So I think we do that with us stuff in our house all the time.
Yeah, stacks of things, or
we just stop looking at it. And so try to look at that with some fresh eyes, and is that what you want that room to look like? And is that, if you could have anything, is that what you would want it to be, right?
Yeah. So back to the season then, if we're in the summer season of this downsizing journey, that is just making sure that you're continuing on those habits and letting each win stack on top of each other. And I would say taking time each week to just think about everything you accomplished. If you did, even 10 minutes a day, you're accomplishing things, and make sure you're seeing that, and that will help you have the momentum to just be like, oh, that wasn't bad at all, and look what is now done. Yeah. Just keep knocking things off that list of areas and drawers and cupboards and
and for me, I think sometimes if you're going to take a fresh look at your house like that, maybe you need a new paint color too. Maybe you pick a room and you do the drawers, do whatever it is in that room that needs cleaned out, and then freshen the whole room up a little bit. Maybe just a few throw pillows or something that just changes it a little bit and just gives you a whole fresh look. And then you'll have that visual progress that creates that momentum and creates more energy. Maybe you just need a little zhuzh.
Yes.
Little something different.
Yeah, those little rewards for each room as you're
Yeah.
finishing them or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah. And I think if you focus on one area, you can see the visual better than if you can still do all pieces around the house. That's okay too, as long as you continue to keep moving. But you won't see the visual as well as if you would just take one room and just continue doing 10 minutes a day in that room until that room feels great.
Yes.
And then when you're in the next room and you're feeling overwhelmed, you can go back to your good room
Yes.
and keep that motivation up, because you know that's what the next room is going to look like once you get done. And so I think personally, like if you just kind of take one room at a time and really dive deep in it.
Bit by bit, yeah. I think it's important too to remember that you don't want to move the chaos of one room just around the house. You don't want to keep shifting room to room. So I feel like, maybe one of your days of your habit is, instead of tackling something else, it's driving to a donation drop-off once a week and taking stuff, or making sure that, when it's trash day, beyond your regular trash that you're putting out, that you're, breaking down boxes or cardboard and, get it out of the house. Don't go through all of this and then end up just with piles in the garage or piles in a spare bedroom. Like, make sure as you're moving along, don't go too far before you move the things actually out of the house. Because I think we see, if you go through things, but you're just kind of piling this is my donation pile or whatever, you have that creep where it eases back in or it gets tucked somewhere. You need the space where the pile lives. So
you move it.
It gets shoved into a closet or something, and then you have to redo it. So definitely, through this season, as you're just building momentum and accomplishing things and looking for that visible sign of progress, make sure you're taking it fully out of the house on those donation and trash items.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's there's people that you could just have a donation come too. You could schedule that, and so you know what date it's coming, and you can stage things there in the garage or whatever for that, and then it's right there for them as they come. But that's coming.
Yes.
2 weeks from now they are coming to pick stuff up, and you better have some stuff for them to pick up because you've scheduled them.
You can't slack off and do nothing.
So a little bit of accountability there on that. So, and like you said, once it leaves the house, that gives you that weight, that freedom of the weight. So even if you've moved it all to one place, it still doesn't feel like that until it's actually moved on to its next home.
Yeah.
And something I do all the time is Facebook has the free, ours is
buy nothing.
Yeah, the buy nothing. And so you just take a picture of it, and they're small areas, so it's just kind of your neighbor area. And then you just I put it outside, and somebody comes and gets it. And it feels good because they wanted it. They chose it specifically. It wasn't just, random. And then it's gone, though, out of my house. And so that's the best part.
Yeah.
So give yourself, once you've built some momentum, you could do larger projects, right? So at the beginning we started small, but you can pick up some larger projects. And if they start to feel overwhelming again, just break them down. The garage is big, but you can do a corner of the garage, a wall of the garage, whatever that looks like. And then, if you're doing paperwork, I think winter's a great time to do paperwork too. Just, you can lay that around and
back to that hibernation.
Yes.
You're just under your blanket on the couch and go through it.
Yeah. Block that time on your calendar. Put yourself a reminder, have it come up so that you've blocked your time, and set your goals, whatever that is. Is it a bag a day? Is it 100 items? Heather's 100 items.
Well, we had decided we were cleaning out the attic of our house, and my husband's a planner, very, likes to know what's coming. So he had put the time block on the calendar for the attic, weeks before we had decided we had a free weekend to do it. And I, saw something I don't even remember now what it was, but something we could go do that was much more
much more exciting than cleaning the attic.
Fun sounding than the attic. And I said, how about we go do, whatever this weekend on Saturday? He's like, that's the day we're cleaning the attic. And he held me to it, but it's done now and the attic's empty, and it felt so good. And, it obviously was not a conflict, was something we couldn't miss. And but it held us accountable to that, whereas prior to that we had been procrastinating it for a while.
We need to do the attic.
Yeah, those sentences don't work very well.
Right.
You need to say, we are doing the attic on this day.
Yep.
And, have it in whatever form your calendar is, and, decide the other stuff around it. Say, and then we're going out for pizza or whatever. Like, have the whole thing so that your day is easy, you can accomplish it, and you don't have conflicts. So,
yeah, maybe you need a, junk guy to come in and pick up that day if there's. I know your stuff in your attic had been in your attic a long time. And
we had the junk guy scheduled for the Monday morning after that weekend, and we knew we need to get it all down, go through it, keep what we're keeping, and have him take the rest. And then it was done, and it's such a weight off our minds, where we had been living with just that, we're going to need to clean out the attic. And that just feels, it was still a project, but it wasn't the end of the world, and it's done. And that's it's so much, now that it's done, you don't have that feeling of the exhaustion that you're anticipating.
Well, right. And it was a project.
Yeah.
But it took you a day, not even a full day, probably.
Right.
And it seemed like it was going to be so major, right? You're like, we have to clean out the attic.
Yeah.
And would it take you 5 or 6 hours?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not a decent chunk of time, but in the weight of it, thinking over and over, I have to get the attic, and it just seems like a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that's well worth having that freedom of mind.
Yes, but it happened because we intentionally put it on the calendar and looked when we would have that free day or weekend, and scheduled the junk guy so that we knew, we could just pile it up, and he was coming, and definitely do all those things, make a plan around it.
So much smarter than me, because I forgot I even had things in the attic when I was moving, and had to move them out of the attic while the movers were still at my house. So fail on a massive scale.
Your story is probably why, it was on my mind. So I'm like, I don't want to do that.
No, it was the massive failure, but it's fine. It all worked out. But not as yours was much more purposeful, and I think that's that's what we're talking about here. Is if you're going to take a year, have it be very purposeful.
Yeah.
And spend that time and decide genuinely, like, do I use this? Do I not use this? Is this who I am anymore? Yeah.
Always good when you have a little more time to make those choices and not do it all at once.
Yeah.
So the next phase that we would move into, we'll call it fall here, but again, it's just following that 12-month. And this is the season of sentimental stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think calling it fall is so appropriate, because that seems to be when you're gearing up for the holidays and you're pulling out all your family traditions.
Yeah.
And, all through that season, you're seeing people more in that celebratory tradition and heirlooms, and family's so important in that season. But in the downsizing seasons, getting to fall means you've worked your way through half a year of just the things that aren't that important, but just we've accumulated too much.
Back to that 80-20, the 80%.
Yeah.
The 80%.
Yeah. And so now hopefully at this, halfway point of the year, moving into this next phase, you're feeling lighter already.
Yeah, you should have a big visual difference in your house.
You should have a big visual difference. You've celebrated wins. You've gotten rid of a lot of things that are easy to donate, which are, housewares and, all of those type of things, garden tools and all of that. And now, if you were to make a downsizing move, on those categories, you could probably pretty easily move.
Yeah.
But you may have a lot of the sentimental stuff, the heirlooms, the photos,
Yeah.
The decorations and things. And you really want to tackle those before you make a move and not take too much, because those are typical storage items.
Yeah. So you want to wait. So now we're talking about stuff that's just harder emotionally, and those kind of things are pictures or keepsakes or things your parents gave you or somebody else gave you, memorabilia of your own, those kind of things. And some people are like, yeah, I'm good. And sometimes time just handles that. Like, I pulled out a box that was my high school box not too long ago. And at the time when I put it all in that box, it ended up being like a time capsule. I mean, when I put it in the box, I didn't realize it was going to stay in that box for so long. But I didn't really need it. I didn't have a lot of emotional and problem with any of it when I finally opened that box, because it had been such a long time. And it was like, my dead corsages from prom. And things like that. And so it was very easy to let that go and just kind of have some happy memories around, what that looked like. And in that whole bin, I think I only kept like two things. One of them was the Rolling Stones t-shirt that I had gone to my first concert with my dad, and my daughter was like dying to have that t-shirt because it's truly vintage one. And so that was fun. She wears it all the time, and it makes me smile to see her wearing it. And the rest of it could just easily go. So sometimes time can help you with that emotional stuff. And it isn't as emotional as you think it's going to be when you open it up.
Yeah.
But sometimes not. Sometimes it is really emotional when you are dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so give yourself time to tell the stories, and find somebody to do that with you that you can tell the stories to, especially if you're, doing pictures and or things that are really personalized to you.
And give yourself space to have that that constraint of an area. You said you had my high school box.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have to get rid of everything, but it's the 80-20 rule. If you have all of these boxes of things, if you pick that bin beforehand, what makes it in and what doesn't, and you're really making choices and honoring what you put in there. And, most anywhere you go, there's room for, that one box, one bin, whatever, that's just the stuff you want to keep to revisit later for no useful reason other than just your memories.
Yeah. And to keep the memories, you don't necessarily have to keep the stuff. You can take a picture of that to remind yourself, depending on what it is and if you really need the thing. You can write the story, you can video the story. There's all kinds of ways to keep the story, because it's not the stuff that's important, it's the story. So remember to do that. You can digitize your photos so you don't have so many of them, and all of that. So I think, too, that it's really important to just think about what part of your legacy is it that you're trying to keep when you're going through some of these things, or somebody else's legacy. If you have all of your mom's stuff because she couldn't make the decisions and she's gone, and you couldn't make the decisions when you were sad, and now you still have it still in your house, or all of your kids' stuff because you kept it because you couldn't let it go. I mean, there's a lot of times when it's not even our own stuff that we're going through, and so what is it that's really important about that person that you want to remember? And in the end, what's really important about you that you want to keep and remember? So very mindset driven, this section. Very thoughtfully mindset driven about purpose of remembering people or yourself.
Yeah. When I moved the last time, my kids are older and out of the house, and I kept just one bin for each of them of various stuff. And so I feel like I'm not sure if I curated what they would have kept. I mean, they took some things they wanted from before we moved, but, I kept stuff from their childhood that meant stuff to me. And someday I hope it's fun for them to just look and see what's in there. But I feel like it's, such a small curated amount. If they want that one bin, sure, take it. If they don't, I'll store it until I'm gone and don't care anymore. And it's not, it's not an overwhelming amount, but it's fun to try to look back and see what you picked to remember somebody by,
right,
and remember their childhood.
And that it goes right into the fourth winter, which is reflection.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we get tired and we feel decision fatigue around the things that we're doing, and sometimes, and that's why this is a process for a long time. I mean, sometimes you're going to go through all of it once, and then you can come back a year later and go through all of it again, and it's easier to let some of that go the second time. The first time you've let so much go that you just feel like you can't let anything else go, whether it's important or not. It's that's an actual thing. Decision fatigue is an actual thing. So reviewing your process, deciding, is this really the essence of this person, or is this really, what I want to keep to remind people of me, or use this thing all the time and I need to keep it, just kind of reviewing that.
It's a good time to revisit the maybe box. If you've listened to other episodes and through this you had a maybe box, like what's that date on it? Does that need to move out? It's a good time if you did our trick with the hangers, turning them all backwards.
Let go of that stuff.
What did I not turn around? You're just kind of going back through the challenges that you've worked through and looking, what else could I get rid of? What decisions were hard for me at the time, but now that I'm seeing so much change in my house and the way I'm living and my, energy around it, what is easier now to do?
What I've been doing this year, it does take a year if you just do it this way. I've always decorated, my mom always decorated our house for different holidays, and so she passed that on to me, and so I have lots of different holiday things. And so I've started to now, when I get my bins out for the holidays, whatever I have not put out that's still left in that bin at the bottom, do I want that? Like, why am I not putting it out? Am I keeping that because somebody gave it to me and I don't like it and it just sits in that bin year after year? Let it go. It's okay. They gave you something else that you do like. You don't have to keep that one thing. Remember, guilt's not a gift.
Yeah.
And so that's an easy way to me. It's like, okay, that's what's left over. So I'm not putting it out. Is there some reason that I need to keep it?
Yeah. I think that one thing to reassess and revisit as well at this point that you've spent all this time working through, hopefully you started with being a little bit dreamy as to why you were thinking about downsizing, even why it was on your radar, and thought about it before you got started. But now I think is a great time to reassess what you wrote down about that dream or what your next 5 to 10 years looks like, and ask questions like, has that timeline changed? Is it now something I want to do sooner? Is it something where now, because I've handled this, and this, that the house will work for me a little longer? Am I thinking I, enjoy this lighter life and I want to go travel more? All of that, just kind of looking back on what your plan was and seeing if it needs tweaked at all. I think that's a great time.
Yeah.
And then I think, as we've said, it's always a repeat of, keeping going with all of these things, but reassessing or evaluating what parts of the year were the hardest for you. Where did you stumble? Where did you maybe, lose your energy or motivation? And look at that and say, is there a different approach I could take? Do I need to pull in an outside resource to help me? Do I need to, do 1 hour a week instead of 10 minutes a day? Like where will you land that you can continue? And what can you take from the parts that you did the best at and keep repeating?
Yeah. And, still, again, the mindset of like, what's your legacy? What kind of things define you? What do you want to keep around those things? What do you want to keep of others? Of their legacy, and kind of just really think about what that future is going to look like, and how you're going to use those things or what. And I mean, I think as you're going along, you'll see remnants of somebody you aren't anymore. I mean, hobbies we find all the time. People have hobbies they've started, and then that's not what they're doing anymore, but they don't get rid of any of those things. And life changes, and sometimes that's hard for people, and sometimes it's exciting for people, and that's how you decide you want it to be. But sometimes things have used their purpose in our life, and that was great at the time, but it's time to let it go. And so that's not really part of the full legacy that you have of yourself now. So
yeah. Good advice, for sure. So at this point, you're definitely looking at, how far you've come.
Yep.
What's next? What season do I need to revisit?
What season are you in right now?
What season are you in? What are the next plans?
Yeah.
And I think, too, different parts of the downsizing can be in different levels of your mindset around them, or, okay, all of these rooms in the house, I've done a really great job, but this one, or my kids' room that they've moved out, and I'm, struggling with that more emotionally than other rooms or things, you might need to just revisit some spots.
Yeah.
And be on a different page on different areas.
Yeah. Yeah. So just keep this as a thought process. Summer, winter, or summer, spring. Oh my gosh. Spring, summer, winter, fall. Spring, summer, winter, fall. So spring, get yourself started. Find that energy. Summer, get that motivation going. Fall,
reflection and sentimental items.
Yep. And then winter, kind of figuring out how you're going to reset, and what your life is going to look like. Go back to that beginning. It's a circle.
Yeah.
And then get motivated for whatever that is that you've decided on, and find that energy to continue to move forward towards that goal.
Yeah. Awesome. I think this could really move people forward and avoid those last minute, time crunch decisions if they jump in and get started on this. So
I agree.
If you need any resources, our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. You can reach out to us through there if there's any questions you have. If you need downloads from our episode, you can find those there. And we look forward to next episode. We will see you then.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Visit us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.